Hi, folks. I'm Sean Crabtree.
And I'm Cameron Bailey.
We don't want to change the way you do business.
We want to change the way you're thinking about your business.
We want you to have better results, happier clients, and make more money.
Let's get it started. Hello and welcome to Dental Profits, where we're going to talk about how to get that money. I'm Cameron Bailey. This is Sean Crabtree. And we're excited to have you. Today, we're talking about education versus accountability. What is that, Sean?
Well, like most things that we talk about on the show, if you are in any sort of service industry, if you're an accountant, if you're an attorney, whatever service industry that you're in, a dentist, this conversation and this show weekly is for you. Education versus accountability. That's what we're talking about. Right?
That's what the topic of today's show is.
So, you want to tell a story?
Yeah, start us out with a story.
I think that would be a great way to start this.
Fire it up.
You got no time today, man. What's up with that?
No time, man. Straight up. Relax. Rico.
See,
Rico love.
Check out my time, man. This is a shark skin. Now, see, we're videoing this, right? So this is going to be out there on the.
Well, video it up.
So you're wondering why I got a yellow pocket square, and I don't know if you can tell it on the video.
Oh, it changes colors.
What about that, man?
Got that color changer on.
So you don't even have a tie.
No tie.
So I think that most viewers are going to say that you are not. I mean, I got the shark skin. You got no tie.
I let my haters be my motivators. It's no problem. They can say what they want to say.
All right. Get us back on track, man. What's the topic?
Education versus accountability.
All right. Let's talk about it. Tell us.
In business. Talking about money.
All right. So
the topic's always money.
It's always about profits. So this is one of the biggest challenges that we see. I'll tell you a quick story. Cameron and I have had a client in the past for many years who his natural go-to place was education. If people just understand how to do something, then they'll do it.
You're talking about people on his team, right?
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah.
People on the team.
We could also talk about education from an acceptance standpoint.
Yeah, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about people on the squad.
People on the squad, right? In the proverbial ditch with you.
That's right.
And so consequently, whenever there was a challenge, we would come to these meetings and the doctor would go on and on and on about educating somebody how to do it. Here's what you do. You do step 1, you do step 2, you do step 3. And sometimes the person would be nodding their head. And a whole bunch of times when we're coming to these meetings and Cameron and I are looking out on the video conference, everybody else is tuned completely out. Nobody's paying any attention.
Because the doctor, the leader of the ship's just sitting there preaching it.
On and on and on, educating. Every time something didn't happen, his natural go-to thing was to educate somebody on doing it or why they should do it or whatever. And that just doesn't work. Education versus accountability. Now, the interesting scenario is these meetings, of course, people were just they were just falling asleep. It was really, meetings were just ridiculous. There was nothing good that was coming out of these meetings. Everybody was like, oh, geez, here we go. It's another meeting, another time for the doctor to drone on and educate. Versus once he got in touch with the accountability part of it, then the people started getting energized because he was holding them accountable for taking responsibility versus educating them on doing a particular thing. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, but I think the success, you got to change your mindset in this conversation. If we're talking about education versus accountability. Oh, you all right?
Jeez, that's hot, man. That is the hottest coffee that was ever made. Get us back on track, man. Go ahead. Get us back on track.
Education versus accountability. I lost what I was going to say, but I think what I was going to say was the most important thing is people think in service businesses that knowing how to do something is going to make you successful. And there's plenty of people out there that know how to do a lot of things, but that doesn't make them do those things, right?
All of us are in this shape.
Yeah, man.
Every one of us are in this shape. Knowing how to do something or educating somebody on doing it. I mean, you could even look at your patients for that matter. I know that's not the subject matter. Yeah. But if you're a hygienist out there and you're listening to this, depending on how long you've been practicing, you have spun around the chair 5 times and educated on the value of flossing and all of this sort of thing. And patients don't do it. They won't do it because it's not about the education. It's about something else. We're talking about the team. We're talking about education versus accountability. So what we would challenge you to do is, instead of putting your focus on education, put your focus on holding your people accountable for taking responsibility. All of us, everybody listening, watching, want more responsibility. But if you're spending your time as the leader of the ship educating me on how to do something, you're not giving me and holding me accountable for taking responsibility over it. And frankly, I'm not going to – am I taking one of your takeaways here?
No.
I was going to say, frankly, if you don't hold me accountable for it, then look, I'm not going to ever put myself in a position to be able to figure out a solution for it.
Yeah, if you don't –
Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, if you don't set the tone of what your expectation is. My expectation is not for you to do something. It's for you to be something, right? We got to be accountable. 4 things we're trying to serve. I mean, everything we always talk about is vision, patience, team, and bottom line. Those are the 4 things that I'm trying to serve. This show is about dental profits, and it's about creating dental profits. And a lot of the dental profits that are created, especially with the things that the Crabtree group does and the systematic approaches that we implement, don't come from doing anything different, right? They don't come from telling somebody how to do something. It comes from creating a culture of accountability and a structure where we're having conversations directly, excuse me, about what our expectations are, right? And what you're responsible for. So I've got –
Is accountability negative?
No, that's number 1.
That's number 1.
Number 1 takeaway.
How come you say accountability is not negative?
Accountability is not negative.
Yes.
Some leaders have a major negative idea about what accountability is. But accountability is not negative. There's a word out there called constructive criticism. Constructive criticism. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. I just need to give them a little constructive criticism, right? What does constructive criticism automatically imply? It automatically implies good or bad, right or wrong, right?
Versus negative criticism.
Versus negative. Yeah. Criticism in general. So the words that we're using a lot of times are creating that negative connotation in our mind about what accountability is.
So accountability is not negative, is what you're saying.
No, it is not negative.
So people may have a negative connotation to the word accountability.
Right.
But accountability is actually what? What is it?
Accountability is a positive thing. Accountability is what's going to move your ball down the field. Accountability is what's going to make you successful in business. Accountability is addressing the challenges or addressing the opportunities that need to be addressed.
So you want me as a leader, instead of educating my patients, to realize that accountability is not negative, instead of educating my team, you want me to hold my team accountable for taking responsibility because it's not a negative thing.
For sure. That's step 2.
I like that.
Step 2.
Now I got to ask a question.
Please. I got answers. You got questions, I got answers.
How do I get over this mindset that accountability is negative?
Take a cold shower. I don't know. Jump in a swimming pool. Do something. Shake yourself out of it, right? How do you get over it? How do I get over it? For me, if it
Take a cold shower, that's a different subject, man.
Look, here's how you get over it. I want to say
that's a different subject, man.
I want to say, lay it out there.
So look at it for what it is. I mean, what is accountability? Accountability is nothing more than giving somebody authority and then making sure that they're taking that authority. And if you're not giving your people the authority, and if you're not making sure that they're taking the authority that you're giving them, then they're just employees and they just have a job, and that's not going to get you where it is you want to go. You agree with that?
I would agree totally. The only way people will take responsibility, this is number 2.
Okay.
You kind of stole the thunder on that, but the only way people will take responsibility is when you hold them accountable to take the authority of an area. We've talked about this a million times. People on your team cannot be employees, cannot be staff, right? When people say use the word staff, I got to get my staff in line. I'm like, oh, do you have an infection? Did you get a staff infection? Is that your problem? No, we have a team. We're creating a team of people moving in the same direction, chasing the same goals. In most organizations, that team never really gets off the ground because there's not a culture of people taking accountability and taking authority in an area. And you as the leader have got to drive that. So when I say accountability is negative, if I'm thinking accountability is negative, then I'm never going to challenge the people on my team to take authority of an area. What I want to do is I want to take the culture and I want to take the people on my team and put them in decision-making mode so that I can hold them accountable for them taking the authority. What do you say about that?
I say you're exactly right, man. I mean, that in this conversation is
that one
true.
right there is worth the price of admission.
No matter what business
that's
that you're
real
in.
money right there.
If you're an accountant, if you're an attorney, if you're in the heating and air company, whatever service industry that you're in, if you're not doing what you just said, which is giving people that accountability, that responsibility, and holding them accountable for that, then at the end of the day, all decisions are really coming back to you.
Yeah.
And there's no way that one person's going to be successful as a group of people.
And you're making the decisions based on what you think will or won't work or how you feel in the moment versus.
You got like a Superman thing going on. Like,
boom.
I like that.
It's like my boy Cam Newton when I score a touchdown. I'm just like, ta-ta.
I think I like that. I think I'm going to go with that tie next time.
Man, see why you got to copy my swag, man.
Because I'm trying to be like you, man.
I don't know.
That's my life's goal.
Get a bus. It's a good bus. Get on it. Number
Come
3.
on, man. Gets back on track.
Number 3 goes hand in hand with number 2. Number 2, the only way people would take responsibility is when you hold them accountable to take the authority over an area, right? Number 3 is you got to give people a why, right? What is the reason that they're here, and how does taking authority get them what they want? What is the why, right?
I heard somebody say one time that 80% of getting anything done is having a big enough why. And if you're educating, you're skipping over the why.
Yeah.
It's almost like do this because I'm telling you to do it versus giving them the responsibility for coming up with the way, and then they've got a big enough why to come up with the way.
Yeah.
When you're holding them accountable for taking that responsibility.
Now, do you know what people are going to say?
What are they going to say?
I give them a big enough why, pay them a paycheck. Sean, what are you telling me? Are you telling me paying these people is not a big enough why?
And if you're hearing this and you're thinking that, then you know what? That is exactly what I'm telling you. At the end of the day, none of us are going to do anything long term with a paycheck as a big enough why. I mean, money does not motivate anybody long term. Now, it can be a motivator in the short term, but at the end of the day, what we found is that people having the ability to have a voice, which is in line with exactly what you're saying here, people feeling like they're a part of something bigger, which is they've got the responsibility and you're holding them accountable for that. You're giving them the authority. I mean, that's what motivates people long term. It's not a paycheck.
Everybody tell you they want to make money, but money doesn't motivate people long term. Money, even when if you take a deep dive into the most successful people, or shall I say the people with the highest net worth, they don't use money as not the motivation. For them, motivation is freedom, right? I want to make the money so that I can have choices. I want to make the money so that I can have freedom. I don't want to make the money just to be making the money. And the same is true with your team. They may tell you, oh, I want to make more money, right? Or I want to do this or I want to do that. But you've got to get to their why specifically, right? What do they want to do with the money, right? Do they want to have do they have goals for a bigger house, nicer house? Do they have goals for maybe they've got a child that's going through college? The people on your team are people. So get them involved. Find out what their why is. What is their why? Where do they want to be in the future? And then how does them taking accountability and taking authority over an area in your business, which is their business, gives them that?
Versus you taking ownership of it and then educating them on how to do it.
Yeah. Hold them accountable, man. Hold them accountable. But you can't change the way you're leading based on what you think will or won't work. You've got to change the way you're leading based on your team and what they want and getting them involved.
So I was speaking one time.
Are you about to drop some knowledge? We need a buzzer. We need a buzzer. It's like ding, ding, ding,
buzzer
ding.
Of knowledge.
Yeah. Knowledge fixing to go down right here. Let's hear it. I can't wait. I'm ready.
No, seriously, you're talking about money.
Hold on. Let me turn it up so they make sure that they hear you, man.
Can
turn it on
track here?
Go ahead.
Can we keep it on straight and narrow here?
Go ahead.
So I was speaking one time in, I think it was in Michigan, and there was a gentleman in the very back of the room, like right there in the aisle where I can see him. And I was talking about this concept of responsibility and so forth. And he got really upset.
What'd you say?
Because in his mind, well, I was having the conversation about taking responsibility, and yes, your team needs to have a big enough why that's beyond the money, and at the same time, they need to be very well paid. And that just tore him all to pieces. And he stood up. Now there was probably, I don't know, maybe 100 doctors in the room here. I was speaking to a group of dentists. He stood up, and as soon as he stood up, and he said some profanities. We can't say them on the mic here. The big mic picks up profanity. That's a big mic right there. But he was really upset that I would suggest that people need to have a bigger reason other than a paycheck.
He thinks people do stuff for money.
And basically what he said, and if you cut the profanity out, is I give my people a lot of money, and if they don't want to work for the check, then they need to go. When he said that, everybody in the room turned around and looked at him. And I thought he was joking.
He wasn't joking.
He wasn't joking, but I thought he was joking.
Yeah.
And I had a good time with it.
Yeah.
Now, the funny part of that is
I've seen that. No, I understand that. But I would say
yes,
that from the people in dentistry that I've met over the last years, I would say that most of the doctors that are out there are probably the opposite. They probably overgive.
That's a good point.
They give more
for the same reason, because they think money is going to motivate them.
And they're and generally they're kind-hearted people,
right?
And they want to help their people, and they want to do what they can to help their team, and they feel
get
like
their heart broken when somebody leaves.
Well, and they feel like me giving them additional money or helping them out financially is doing that. And then what I'm not doing is I'm not creating a level of accountability where
everybody's able to take responsibility. Now, that's a good point, man. That's a good point. Now, back to my story.
Finish it up. Go ahead.
We ended up working with that doctor for many, 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 many years. And when we dove into the situation, the turnover at that place was crazy. And not that that's a big issue. I mean, but it was he fired his whole team, hired a different new team, and was about to fire the whole new team.
Oh, Lord.
And that was his mindset, is why I give these people a paycheck. That should be enough. But once we got this accountability in place, not education, accountability. Once we got the accountability in place, the whole culture changed. I worked with this team for many, many years. And, these guys grew in the first 14 months about $1 million. Not because that was the goal.
Damn, $1 million?
In about 14 months. That was not the goal.
They grew $1 million. What were they doing before?
The goal was to get the culture in place.
They got the dental profits up. That's what they did. What was the goal?
It's all about the dental profits.
What were they? They grew $1 million. What were they doing before?
They were doing about 1.3.
So they went to 2.3?
2.3. Yeah. That wasn't the goal. Again, it was
in Tennessee, that's what we call a whistle dam. Damn. $2.3 million? Damn.
Single doctor practice. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, that's good.
That's strong.
So it's not education, it's accountability. And that's the culture that you're trying to create across the board. It's not education, it's accountability. And so recap it up, man.
You got to give people a big enough.
Number one.
Sorry. Accountability is not negative, right? Some leaders just have a major negative connotation to accountability.
Accountability can be super positive if it's done from the right place. Remember,
constructive criticism is stupid.
Giving your people the authority to make decisions and then holding them accountable for taking that authority is really, really supportive thing. Number two.
Number two, that is number two. The only way people will take responsibility is when you hold them accountable to take authority of an area.
Okay.
Number three, give people a big enough why. What is the reason that they're here? How does taking authority get them to what they want?
And if you're just educating, you're skipping over the why, and that's not getting them where it is that they need to go. Check us out on YouTube. How do they do that?
Oh, go to YouTube and type in Crabtree Group. That would be our YouTube page.
The Crabtree Group.
I think it is Crabtree Group. I don't think there's a the.
So if you just go to YouTube, search the Crabtree Group.
Yep. Search the Crabtree Group on YouTube. You can find us on LinkedIn, Cameron Bailey, Sean Crabtree. You can find us at thecrabtreegroup.com. Obviously, if you're listening to this, we have a show called Dental Profits that's coming to you live every week. Every week.
And you can find that on thecrabtreegroup.com.
Yeah, teach you how to make that money. And
that's what this show is all about.
You can also find that in a couple other places.
Once a week, we're dropping knowledge on you.
Dropping knowledge, man.
And so the takeaways, once again, are there's no negativity about accountability. The only way that people take responsibility is when you hold them accountable and give people a big enough why. Do those three things, and our prophecy is that you will sow the seeds of higher quality care and soon reap the rewards of higher profitability.
Get to the money. If you're not where you want to be financially right now, change your mindset. Get to the money.
Thanks for joining us. See you next week.
See you guys.